All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Landan with LMR.com. A little loud right now, we got the compressor going, but anyways, nonetheless, I'm excited today. We're gonna talk about the cars you see right here behind me, and we're kind of calling this the LMR collection, plus a few employee cars that's currently up here at the moment. Of some of the videos we've done and the social posts that we've made, y'all have seen these cars in the background and some of that content, and you express interest in certain cars, so we figured today we're gonna just kind of tour every single car we have here currently, talk a little bit about it, look inside the interior, we may open the hoods, discuss some of the engine-based stuff, and just kind of what the cars mean to us, how long we've had them, maybe future plans, and so on and so forth. And one of the good takeaways from this is give us some feedback. Let us know which car is your favorite. Let us know which car you may want to see more of. We may take this 2011 Mustang GT right here and maybe make a standalone kind of walk and talk or walk and chat video, if you must, of this particular car. But what you'll notice here too is we don't have very many perfect cars. This isn't a collection of a bunch of low mile stuff with big price tags on it. We like kind of the rougher birds of the bunch, I guess you could say, because that further validates what we do. We can solve problems, we can offer solutions, and you'll kind of see that as we progress through the collection of cars here, seeing that not a lot of them are very perfect. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is the 2011 Mustang GT. This thing's been around really since the Coyote cars came out in late 2010. This is Kona Blue. Looks really, really good. One of my favorite colors on the S197 cars, and really one of my favorite colors in general. But this car's had several different aliases, if you must. Obviously, it kind of started life as a 2011 Mustang GT. Kind of transitioned to a RTR, I guess, if you must, when kind of all that stuff was kind of kicking off back in the early, 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe. Carried that look for a while, and then our 15th anniversary came around in, let's see, 2014, and we thought it would be cool to wrap this car like a 79 pace car and kind of pay tribute to that car. And down the side of it, we had, I think, 15th anniversary LMR or something like that. But we'll pop some pictures up so y'all can look at it. It's been a while, since we've had this car wrapped in that configuration. But over the course of the years, it popped its first engine, the original engine that came in it, the Coyote, the 5-liter V8. And then in its place actually went a Ford Racing Illuminator XS engine, which was, forged internals, rods, pistons, the whole 9 yards, ported cylinder heads, Cobra jet intake manifold, monoblade throttle body, made a lot of power. And when Ford Racing actually released that engine, I think back in 2014 timeframe, don't quote me on this, but I believe this was one of the first cars that actually had that engine, and Ford Racing really didn't know what kind of power that engine was supposed to make. And I think early on when we dynoed this car, I think it made 467 out of the box with like 50 miles on it. And then in the most recent of dyno videos, I think it's up to about 470 horsepower, give or take. So a lot of power considering, granted, that engine's expensive, so you got to kind of take that into consideration. But this is a fun car, and it kind of, in a way, expresses kind of who we are as a company. It's had failures, it's changed over the years, to facilitate what we thought was best at that time. It's kind of how LMR's been, over the course of its almost 25-year journey. You may get knocked down and you get back up again and keep fighting. But to us, a lot of us here, the way the car is now, we call it Pace Boss, I guess, if you must, because it was a pace car at one point. It was a kind of a Boss clone at a certain point, but got the big G-Stream wing on it, silver SV X500s, carbon fiber hood. Been a road race car kind of all its life. I've driven this car on track. It is loads of fun. If you haven't done any high performance driving events, go check one out in your area. That type of racing and that type of enjoyment, I'm telling y'all, it is super fun. So other than that, it's kind of a catalog car, GT 500 brakes, I think Coney adjustable shocks, BMR springs. It's a factory 373 gear car. Pretty much everything that you can somewhat upgrade on the car, to an extent of some areas, that still haven't been upgraded. It's been upgraded, and this is one of the cars that we really, really like. So we'll keep moving on here. Not gonna spend a ton of time on this one, but this is a 2011 or 2012 Raptor. Lowish miles for the year, really good condition considering some of the conditions of the other trucks that are out there, but this has a Roush supercharger on it, makes some good power, about 460-ish horsepower. Can't remember the torque, but we got a dyno video on this one. We'll link it down in the description, which I forgot to tell you on this one as well. We'll list all the dyno videos. If I mention the dyno video in this video, we'll link it for y'all down in the description. But good example of a first-gen Raptor. Okay, so continuing on, we've got a first-gen Lightning right here. This actually belongs to an employee, Jared Farrell. Y'all probably seen a few of his cars here on the YouTube channel as well, with some dyno videos and things. Jared's one of those where he likes to buy, sell, and every once in a while, you know, he'll hold on to one for an extended period of time. And this is one of those vehicles that he's held on to for an extended period of time. This, I believe, is a 95 Lightning. Of course, white was only available on the first gens for $94, $95, but I'm fairly confident this is a 95 Lightning. If it's got the door tag in it, I can check here. For a 94, maybe a 94, yeah, it's 94. I don't know, I may have called it a 95 at one point, but nonetheless, good example of a first-gen Lightning. He just actually recently rebuilt the engine. Just a mild rebuild, I think. Did like a flat top piston, I think. A little bit bump and compression, nothing crazy. And he did a very mild cam. These trucks being speed density, obviously they didn't respond well or didn't like, you know, big lift camshaft. So very mild cam. We do have a dyno video on this one. Made some pretty good power, about what a stock truck makes, but the engine's still kind of fresh, you know, really hadn't had time to stretch its legs or anything like that, I guess you could say. But we'll open the hood here, kind of show it to you. Pretty clean engine bay, considering, yes, he just went through it. So yeah, you know, technically it should be clean, but there you go. Like I said, good, solid example of a Gen 1 Lightning. Good truck. Nice truck, Jared, if you're watching this video. So kind of continuing with this era, I guess you could say, OBS, old body style. This is our Bronco, 96 Bronco. I believe it's Cabernet Red is what this color is. Don't quote me on that. Oh, sorry, I was tapping my mic. There's so many colors, so many options, so many everything out there when it comes to this stuff. I can't remember everything, so bear with me on that. And if y'all feel like y'all want to correct me in the comments, correct me in the comments. Good example of an OBS Bronco. I can't remember how many miles that's on this truck. We can actually verify that here real quick. You see, 163,000. We've had this a little while. It kind of showed up and it was in good enough condition. You know, we were like, shoot, you know, we need a Bronco. Let's go ahead and get this thing. And we also have another Bronco as well. It's actually a night edition Bronco. Those were kind of cool. Y'all can check out our What is an OBS Bronco video if y'all want to know more about these things. And we've got a lot of what is videos on all this cool stuff. But this being a 96, these were kind of, I don't necessarily know if you want to call them the holy grail, I guess, of the 92 to 96 Broncos. But 96 was the only year that they had, you know, mass air, which, you know, if you did modifications to the truck, you know, like camshafts or something like that, typically mass airs always respond better than speed density, duh. It's just, you know, the nature of the system. For the most part, you know, it's relatively all stock. It's got some Ford racing plug wires and stuff. Looks like it's got an aftermarket ignition coil, but that's typically common stuff. I mean, you gotta think, you know, it's a 96 with some miles on it. You know, typically you won't see, you know, some of the stock stuff that is a wear item, I guess you could say, ignition coils, you know, spark plug wires, stuff like that. But this here, we actually just recently put our little lift kit on it, which gives you a, I think an 1.5 inch front spring and a Bilstein front shock. And this thing, man, this looks really cool. Really like this thing, I do. And y'all are gonna hear me say that a lot in this video, but I think that's a testament of our taste in cars. You know, if you like all the cars you have in your collection, then, well, you're probably doing something right by buying those types of cars or types of vehicles. But 32-inch BF Goodriches with the factory wheels, man, I'd sport this thing. I would. I love it. The two-tone looks great. It's an Eddie Bauer edition, by the way. And you can see that on the back of the headrest. It's just missing the Eddie Bauer mention here in the decal or the fender emblem, but you can see the Eddie Bauer there on the back of the seat. Good interior too. Minimal seat wear. I mean, you can kind of feel the foam a little deteriorated, but you know, cracking the dash, just some common stuff really for old vehicles. But if you can say this with anything, if you take care of something, it's gonna last. So whoever had this for as long as they did, they took really good care of them. So 96 OBS Bronco. All right, so up next, again, you're gonna hear me say this a lot, one of my favorites. This here is 1988 LX. We've kind of dubbed this Dragula, and y'all will hear me say this as well throughout the video. We like to name our cars, or name the cars that we have here in the collection. It's just what we do. It's, you know, we can easily identify them that way, I guess you could say. But Dragula's been around a while. We got a dyno video on this one, so we won't spend just a ton of time on it. It started life as kind of a rough old bird, I guess you could say. It's got fresh interior, fresh paint, and then sitting between the frame rails is a 393 cubic inch engine, which, you know, we dynoed, didn't make all the power. All the experts came to mention that, oh, my 306 makes that on a good day. Well, no, it doesn't. There's a little bit of tweaking, you know, we can do with this. It's got the Pro-M engine management system on it, which is a really good system, by the way. So we think we can dial in some calibration stuff and maybe get a little bit closer to 400. Okay, so check this out. This is the cool stuff that we always randomly get to find around here. Hubbard did this. Y'all know Scott Hubbard. You know, he's been a friend of Shannon, the owner of the company, for several years. He's one of the driving forces that got Shannon into Mustangs long ago, you know, when Shannon was a kid. But Hubbard loves to tinker, and this is definitely an early prototype of some Hubbard tinkering. Looks like there's a prototype airbox going on right there. But there's the 393. All the specifications on it are in that dyno video. Sounds amazing. One of my favorite sounding Fox bodies I've ever heard, personally, you know, with my own ears. And if I was to build a car, this would be very close to something I would build. You know, black coupe, titanium interior, and then our SVE drag comp wheels with Cobra brakes. This thing's hard to beat. In the interior here, it's got the Corbo GTS2s. You know, for a lot of people, this is a love-hate because the fabric can get dirty, but it's like anything, you know, you gotta maintain it. You know, you can't just not clean stuff. But the GTS2s with the matching rear upholstery look really dang good in this thing. Manual window car, no drag strip yet. You know, we need to get it down there, see what it's running. But like I said, I think there's still a little bit of room for improvement in the calibration, you know, to get it dialed in and really get it to where we want it. But again, I really like this car. All right, so here's one of Tony's 0304 Cobras. This is his Redfire car. I was actually chatting with him the other day on it because he just removed the clear bra from the front, and I had to help him with a little bit of touch-up paint and some little bit of wet sanding and stuff like that on the front of his bumper. But I think he bought this car in 2005. So October of 2005. So here we are, you know, late 2023 time frame, you know, kind of the, I guess, 18-year anniversary of him owning this car. He doesn't put a lot of miles on it. You know, it says Dyno Queen on the quarter window for a reason. It's one of those that it's, he cleans it and looks at it more than he drives it. And I know a lot of you are probably going like, oh man, you got to get out there and drive that thing. That's fine, man. That's just, I think that's what makes what we do so fun. You know, you got the guys that do want to drive the heck out of their cars, and you got the guys that kind of just like knowing that they have it. You know, they like knowing that they have this. And what I mean by this, you know, a car or something that they've always wanted, and you know, they just choose to put it on display and drive it whenever they want to drive it. But a good example, very, very good example of a 0304 Cobra. It's got the Ford Racing 2.3 Whipple, I think is what they did. Yeah, there's a Ford Racing 2.3 Whipple kit on it. Makes some pretty good power, makes close to about 600-ish horsepower. Of course, every dyno's different. We got a dyno on this one, by the way, as well. It'll be available for you down in the description, but we'll pop the hood here real quick. Yeah, the headlights are out of it. Tony's tinkering on it, probably getting it ready for our cruise in here that's coming up. There's the Whipple. It's the wrinkle black version. Tony keeps his stuff sharp, nice and clean. Got his little OG plaque right here, 2004 Cobra Terminator. I remember when those were big. I guess, I don't know if they're as big as they used to be, but you know, this was one of the things when you'd hop on the forums back in the day, you know, there'd always be like a sticky post or something of people making these, and Cobra guys would have them, Lightning guys would have them. I never got one. Never went down that rabbit hole, I guess you could say, of wanting my personalized plaque. But interior is as good as the exterior. Charcoal inserted seats. It's just a good all-around car. Looks great, sounds amazing. Full Bassani exhaust. Bassani exhaust in this era, you know, like 2000 Cobra R, Ford Lightning, 0304 Cobra. Shoot, even you know, 9904 GTs or 9604 GTs for that matter. It's hard to beat, you know, a Bassani exhaust on a, you know, 2-valve or 4-valve, 4.6, 5.4 engine. So next, since it's right here and kind of somewhat in view, this is Tony's 2004 Competition Orange Cobra. We've dynoed this one as well. You can check it out. This one is, for the most part, I think this one's all stock. Gosh, how many Comp Orange Cobras did they make? 281? One of 281? I think that's right. Yeah, one of 281 coupes. The convertible Competition Orange cars, I think that was one of the more rare production runs of the 04 Cobra in terms of the body style and the paint code. And then it gets granular, you know, because interiors were different and things like that. You know, you could say one of whatever, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, all stock. Still has the snout cover here on the Supercharger. You don't see that too often. And I think as far as miles go, I think his cars are close in miles. I think this is like 21, 23, somewhat thousand. And then I think that one there is around the same. And then this has the charcoal interior with the charcoal inserts. Dark charcoal, I guess, by proper terminology. But good example of an 04 Cobra. Really like this one. Competition orange, always a kind of a, I guess, bucket list color for me. I like sonic blue, and I like dark shadow gray. Kind of as a lightning guy, a second gen lightning guy, I've always kind of had this dream of owning a 03, 04 Lightning and an 03, 04 Cobra in either sonic blue, DSG at the same time. I guess you could own, I mean, I got a 2000 Lightning in silver. I guess I could own a 03, 04 Cobra in silver and it could kind of suit that dream. But anyways, 2004 Competition Orange Cobra. All right, so since that car was kind of already hanging out, we went ahead and kind of discussed it. But with some of these being stuck up underneath the lifts, we'll have to roll them forward. So we're gonna pause for a second, resituate some things, and then we'll be right back in action. All right, folks, we're back. We got kind of this first row pulled out here a little bit. Just enough room, you know, so we can kind of take a look at the interior, pop the hood, all that good stuff. But continuing on, this is a Department of Public, well, not Department of Public Safety, wrong terminology. This is an SSP Mustang. This was used by, I believe, Aransas County, Aransas Pass. Anyways, one of the two here in Texas. So it was kind of an unmarked, you know, kind of officers or detectives car, I think is what it was. But the SSP cars were pretty neat. A lot of specialty stuff done to them just because of their intended use and things like that of pursuits and all that cool stuff. And we have a pretty good article on SSP Mustang we can link below, but this car here is kind of blown apart right now. Doing quite a bit of stuff to it. I think Cameron, one of the guys that work over there, kind of in the shop area, he's, you know, resprayed the dash, respraying a few other interior pieces and things, and kind of just getting the car, you know, back to fighting shape. Yes, it's obvious it needs paint. You know, kind of what old car doesn't need paint. You know, that's kind of been neglected for most of its life. But this car has some really, really good bones. It's still, for the most part, very intact. You know, it was never a race car, I guess you could say. When we bought the car, you know, it kind of had a goofy T-handle shifter in it. You know, the heater hoses were bypassed and things like that. But that was just probably because the heater core didn't work, but I believe they got all that fixed whenever they pulled the dash to respray and all that good stuff. But goodness, where's the hood release? There we go. Open the hood here. Nothing too crazy. Kind of, I wouldn't call it just a light. I wouldn't call it a restoration. I would just call it maybe a get it back to fight shape fix if you must. But this was all kind of hodgepodge whenever we got it. No AC. Like I said, the heater hose stuff was bypassed, but got all that hooked back up. Fresh AC. Got the air box back on it. SVO radiator. All that good stuff. Battery cables. Just common, you know, tune-up type parts to get the car to run and drive. And this here, we LMR had it for a little bit, and then Chad Koshik, who's been with the company a long time, he showed interest in getting back into another car, and he always liked this car whenever we had it, you know, whenever we originally bought it. So this now belongs to Chad Koshik, and I believe his plans, you know, long term is to get it back in its rightful shape. So, like this car a lot. There's another, I like this car a lot. Okay, so next one here in the bunch. Those of you that have been around the channel for quite a while, y'all may know this car, you may not. This was intro Vert way back. Y'all probably remember a few videos on this car. It's an 88 GT. Yes, it has an LX front bumper. There was a period of time where somebody had owned it, wanted kind of to do an LX conversion. They didn't really like the GT stuff, and then it kind of just stalled. A lot of you can relate to that. You know, some projects, you know, you got a bunch of steam, you know, it's you can, kind of the honeymoon phase is what we call it. You know, you're motivated at first, and then the project kind of starts to get long in the tooth. You start to struggle. You know, funds may get tight, you know, name your scenario, and then you kind of just get burned out. And that was kind of the case here for intro Vert. And then when it was a GT, this needed some paint correction to bring back the black paint, you know, maybe some headlights and some light fix-me-up items in the interior. And this would have been, you know, a solid car, but, you know, here we are, fell victim to kind of hodgepodgeness, and now we got to fix it. But hey, that's good. You know, like I said early on in the video, that's where we find the most value with this stuff is, you know, finding the dirty dogs or the dirty birds, because this is what a lot of you will experience. And if we can experience this too, you know, this is why, and this is how, you know, we get the parts that we get and the solutions that we offer here on LMR.com. But typical old engine bay needs just about everything. Not to make it run, you know, it just needs a few things to make it run. But, you know, if we're talking to, you know, make it, you know, really presentable, you got to put forth some sweat equity on this one. But the interior, it's starting to shape up. For those of you that watched our 8793 center console video, this is the car that we actually did all the work on. Put new carpet in it. We pulled the dash, we sprayed it. New AC vent registers, new dash pad. We got the Momo steering wheel in there. And of course, this car here features our reproduction 8793 center console with the 5.0 resto top panel. A bunch of new pieces and new interior components here. And I would almost say, other than, you know, some of the isolated areas in the interior, we're about 80% there. With, you know, on the interior, and then from there, you know, we can kind of transition back to the outside, put some paint on it, you know, address some of the hockey sticks is what they call them here, you know, the well moldings, the trunk. I kind of like it though without the luggage rack. It looks kind of neat. You know, the convertibles had the luggage rack thing because you didn't have as much luggage space, which that's crazy. You know, a luggage rack in today's society and on a car is, you know, it's absolutely unheard of. But I kind of like it. I don't like it without the luggage rack, but you know, to each their own. But yeah, 88 convertible GT, you know, we dubbed intro Vert. But soon, this will be back in fighting shape. Like I say in videos, some progress is good progress. Alrighty, S197. This is a 2007 Mustang GT. Lee Cox, another employee that's been with the company for quite a while. He actually bought this car in 2014. Got a really good deal on it, considering the time frame, the miles that the car had. I think I can't remember how many owners, but it was pretty much all stock. And in the way you see it here, you know, it's got a few enthusiast-minded mods. You know, we've got our SVO tow hook on it. We got the bullet style grille there in the front. That's a GT CS or California Special front bumper. It also has the same rear bumper. Whenever Lee owned the car, he actually had the deck lid shaved. You don't see that too often on the S197 cars. I know that's a love-hate relationship, or a love-hate, I guess, mod, if you must, to do a spoiler delete. Did the faux gas cap delete, and then kind of the way the car flows down here to the you know, California Special rear valence. The Shelby GTs also utilize this rear bumper, but it's kind of got the molded in kind of diffuser, if you must, there on the lower section of the bumper. And then of course that's textured plastic down here, and then up here those were body color. But this is a fun car. I've driven this car on track up there at Motorsport Ranch Crescent, and out of all the cars I've driven, you know our yellow GT, shoot 350R, driven a lot of cars on track. Believe it or not, this car was one of my more favorite cars, or one of my favorite cars to drive on track. And it actually had, when I did drive it, it had some Nitto 555 G2s, you know, so it didn't have like a race slick or anything like that, like an R7 or R6 or whatever the heck we run. And doing that, you know, the car talks to you. The 555 G2s, you know, when you go around a corner. And this having, you know, just a touch above 300 horsepower makes it so much fun. So much fun. And then on the inside here, I put carpet in this car. It's hard to believe that, you know, S197 cars need carpet, but like any car, you know, they age, you know, people don't take care of them, so on and so forth. Typical door panel issue. We need to address this, but we've kind of just been coaxing it along, if you must, all this time. But interior is pretty solid, pretty stock. Those seats were actually out of the Pace Boss. We put some Corbeau seats in the Pace Boss. So these bolt right up, but the airbag lights on just because of, you know, the resistance and things like that of the modules. I'm sure if we spent some time on it, you know, we could get the light off. But for the way we use the car, you know, this works for us. Okay, looks like we got another S197 in the mix here. Another one that's kind of been around a while. I think it made its debut here in the family, LMR family, summer of 2018. When we got this car, it's a 2013 GT, by the way, candy red. We call it Candy Crush. Yeah, I know that's, you know, a lot of thought when they're nicknaming this car, but that's what just kind of rolled off the tongue. But whenever we got this car, I think it was in 2018, I think it had like 105,000 miles on it already at that time. So considering it being a 5-ish-year-old car, you know, 105,000 miles, that was considered kind of, you know, higher mileage for a Coyote car. And I think it came like from the west part of the United States, where there's a lot of sun, because it's definitely sun-baked. You know, you can see on the cowl panel, the wiper arms, the weather strips, you know, the textured plastics, you know, on the mirrors and things like that. But good candidate, you know, for some later model S197 restoration, because no matter what, all these cars, you know, that are exposed to the elements, you know, that get driven, they're all going to be in the same boat at some point, where if you want to get them back to fighting shape, you know, you may have to, you know, respray your trim or just replace your trim, you know, do some paint correction, you know, just basically, you know, freshen up the entire car. But the way you see it, it's a factory Recaro car. It was a Brembo brake car, but this was the car that we did the S197 6-piston front caliper upgrade that's branded SVE. And then to match the big brakes in the front, we put the SVE rear brake caliper adapter on the rear, which lets you run the larger 1314 GT500 rear rotor. So this car has a lot of stopping power. And then the wheels, that's the SVE MHP1. It's a square setup with some Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, I believe, or Pilot Super Sport. Yeah, Pilot Super Sport 4S. I like this tire a lot. You know, it rides well. You know, if you take it to the track, it still performs decent enough. And by track, I mean like a high performance driving event or something like that. But got a dyno video on this one. Makes some pretty good power, considering the only, I guess, performance modification is the Ford Performance track cal, which basically recalibrates the PCM. And they give you a few specialty functions as well. I think like the pit lane speed. I think you get like the built-in two-step rev limiter thing. And then when the car gets to operating temperature, you kind of get the factory ghost cam, if you must. Kind of get that little bit of that overlap from the variable valve timing in the cams. And it sounds pretty cool. And then as believe SVE axleback exhaust, SVE springs, and Coney yellow adjustable shocks and struts. But the car's held up well. We had to replace the upholstery there on the Recaro seat not too long ago. Again, you know, just cars that are used, nothing lasts forever. But we got that seat back to fighting shape. Interior's held up well in this car. You know, it needs a deep cleaning, but other than that, it's, you know, it's a pretty decent place to be considering the miles and things like that. And this car here, when we got it, an employee, Carson Swartz, she showed a lot of interest in it, and then we actually sold it to him. He had it for a little while, and then unfortunately, Carson passed away not too long ago at the time of this video. So we got the car back. We're probably going to hold on to it for a good while at least, because we've always liked the car, and it's kind of just tribute to Carson You know, because he's always liked cars in general. He's had plenty of Mustangs, had Corvettes, had a Jaguar or something or another at one point. But Carson was definitely a car enthusiast, and we can kind of, you know, live through.
Sorry, he had that. What was it? Was it a Land Rover?
Yeah, he had that goofy Land Rover too. He had a lot of oddball stuff, you know, but he always had clean cars. You know, the paint was shiny, the tires were glossy, and I know Carson's looking down on us. And he's probably smiling right now, and we miss him every day, so love you, Carson. Jumping over here, this is, man, I got a lot of time in this car. A lot of track time on the road course with it. Coda, Motorsport Ranch, Crescent, Hallett Motor Racing Circuit there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I've almost put every single part on this car that's been on it. And of course, it's come off of the car, but early on when the S550s came out, this was one of the first cars that was purchased in the country. It's a 2015 Mustang GT, triple yellow performance pack car with 50th anniversary, which a lot of that stuff's been changed out just because that's what we do. You know, we sell parts, so we want to, you know, outfit our cars with all the parts as much as we can and as often as we can, you know, just to get the experience. Cervini's cowl hood, the way you see it here. And then interior still kind of mostly stock. We've done a few things in there, like had Corbeau seats in it and took the Corbeau seats out. But R350 wheels in gloss black. And then the brake setup on this car is actually what makes it really, really fun. That's the M2300Y kit from Ford Performance. That's basically what you get on a GT350 or GT350R. So the braking performance on this thing is out of this world, and does really, really well on track. And it's one of those where you can drive it pretty deep down into a corner, and this thing's still going to stop. But got the performance pack grills in it because the 50th anniversary cars, you know, they had that bar grill, kind of paying homage to the classic Mustangs. They put a gloss black pony in there instead of the chrome one, which I think ties the entire car together, you know, because we got the gloss black hood scoop, the gloss black wheels. So that just kind of continues tying that theme together. And then let's see, shoot, we had twin turbos on it at one point. When Hellion, whenever they were developing their S550 kit, they said, hey, you know, we got this turbo kit. Y'all want to check it out? Y'all want to try it? And then we were like, sure, send it to us. And I can't remember what the car made. It made like 717 horsepower, something like that, 640 something pound-feet of torque, something pretty crazy. But like anything, you know, it's hard to beat naturally aspirated power. So returned it to stock, and then we kind of went through the progressional stage of the Ford Performance Power Packs when those were rolling out back in like 2016, 2017 timeframe. Started off with the stage 1, then it went to stage 2, and then we ended with stage 3, which is what is still on the car, and it makes plenty of power being naturally aspirated and still somewhat stock exhaust. Still has stock manifolds, stock catalytic converters, and it does have the GT350 catback exhaust that Ford Performance used to sell. And then I think power output wise, power, horsepower and torque, 432, somewhere around there, like 380 to 85 pound-feet of torque. We got a dyno video on it, but y'all can check it out. I like this car a lot. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in it. It's one of those that I kind of always default to, you know, whenever we got to go somewhere. Moving on here, looks like it's back to the new edge category. This is keeping comp. It's the 2004 Competition Orange GT. In some light, it looks torch red, I guess you could say. But this is supposed to be Competition Orange. This was the car that belonged to Tyler Rodriguez way back in the day. He bought it. You know, had it for a while, and then, you know, kind of his vision and outlook changed on life. You know, wanted to start a family, get married, all that good stuff. So he sold the car, and then some years later, it popped up for sale at a local lot. And then, you know, the power of social media and things like that, we saw it pop up, and then went to go look at the car, and lo and behold, checked the VIN number, that was it. So we bought it back, just knowing kind of the history of the car, it belonging to Tyler, and to 3, 4, however you want to number it. It being, you know, a Competition Orange 2004 GT, there's not very many out there. When we got the car back, it was rough. You know, it needed a lot of work, but we turned it around. Excuse me. You know, we turned it around, gave it a complete paint job, completely redid the interior, put as many new parts on it as we could. Still left the high mileage 2 valve in there. We got some plans for this car, so y'all stay tuned for it. I got the chrome Salines on it currently. It's already had a few different wheels, but hey, you know, we're Mustang people. That's what we do. We switch parts out. And then this has the M2300X front brake kit, which is what came on the 2000 Cobra Rs. And then out back, it has the SVE Cobra style brake upgrade kit, which lets you run the larger 11.25 inch, or no, 11.65 inch rotor. And there are a lot of numbers to remember when it comes to all this stuff, between colors and trims and packages, and it gets long in the tooth. You know, you can't remember it all, but interior is a nice place to be. We'll zip y'all around here and check it out. But we went with the Mach 1 seats, or Mach 1 upholstery, just because this upholstery's always looked good in these cars. It flows nicely. We matched it with the bullet cluster. With the Mach 1, I actually used the same cluster, it's just the red line was in a different spot because the Mach 1 was a 4-valve engine versus the Bullet being a 2-valve engine. But new carpet, I say new dash. We were gonna respray the dash and stuff like that, but we actually ended up finding a car locally that was getting parted out. So we just bought the interior out of that car. It was a lower mile car because the door panels in this car were completely trash. And if you own a new edge car, and really if you own a 94 to 04 car for that matter, I mean, the door panels just get all beat up. The material here starts to separate at the inner door belt area. And then right here where kind of people put their arm, rest their arm, you know, this starts to, you know, delaminate and come apart from the panel itself. And you can actually hear this one, it's actually starting to separate a little bit as well. But this is definitely kind of OEM plus, I guess you could say, you know, as far as the modifications and what we did to it. SVE, the FR500 style steering wheel, the SVE shift knob, Ford racing pedals. And then one of the things that Tyler wanted whenever we finished the car, or whenever we were doing the car, wanted the spoiler delete. And again, another controversial topic, I guess you could say, on these cars, on whether or not a spoiler is preferred or a spoiler is not preferred. But I had a white 99 GT when I was younger in life, you know, 19, 20 years old, and it had a shaved deck lid as well. So I've always been kind of partial to the spoiler deletes. Again, I know a lot of folks are like, oh, these things look absolutely ridiculous with no spoiler. But hey, again, you know, that's the beauty of what we get to do. It's your car, and you can definitely do what you want with it. But still, I forget what suspension we went back with this thing. I think it still has like just the basic KYB shock and strut with like an SVE spring, but we plan on changing some of that stuff up too as time goes on. And like I said, you know, we got some plans for the car, so y'all stay tuned. But kind of the end of the road here for these cars, so we'll do a little bit more rearranging, and we'll be back. All right, everybody, we're back. So the cars that were against the back wall, we moved forward, and then we went ahead and dropped the cars that were up on the lift in the back down, so we can kind of snake through here and go ahead and cover all these. But before we get going on this car here, I wanted to hop back over to the orange car real quick because I kind of forgot to stroke my ego a little bit and talk about the engine bay of this thing. I had about, 80 hours, I would say, into this thing. That's kind of just how I'm wired. Just keep going till it's right, but I could have went a little bit more. But here you go. Yes, as you see it here, it's a little dusty, dirty, just because it's been about a little over a year since we've completed the car. We do have plenty of B-roll shots when this thing was just finished, kind of being fixed and restored, and it looks absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to kind of pat myself on the back before we kept going here on the collection tour. But we'll go ahead and jump over here to this car. This is a true 1993 Teal Cobra. Gosh, I can't remember. Scott Springer told me the miles on this thing whenever he got it. It's low. Like it was bought off the dealer lot. It was driven for a small period of time, and then it was made into a race car. You kind of can see some of the badging on it. I think like SCCA. There was a few different like sanctioning bodies or leagues or however you want to word it, kind of within the SCCA. And I think this car was spec'd to like the American Iron class. Don't quote me on that, but I think I remember, you know, in talking with Springer, that was how this car was spec'd. So, oh heck, got oil all over me. Some of the cars drip and leak oil, you can see, but I guess I got to pop the hood. I just figured I saw hood pins, so I didn't think there was a hood latch. But this thing's pretty wild. I mean, it went from, you know, production car to race car, you know, kind of in the snap of a finger or a blink of an eye. But you can see kind of the extended cage here that it actually runs through the body of the car. pretty serious cage. And then because of this cage, you got to completely gut the door frame. So you don't get to see this a lot, you know, on a Fox body Mustang, a completely gutted door. But man, this thing is like stupid light. Of course, you got to leave the latch in place here for it to hit the striker. But dedicated instruments for some of the systems, you know, oil pressure, water temp, RPM, oil pressure, all that good stuff. It's got a transponder in it, I believe, or some sort of transponding unit. It has a fire suppression system, and then, of course, a dedicated fuel system. And then none of that stuff, it's all got to be gone through. None of it's good anymore. Whenever we get to the car, or maybe Springer gets to the car, you know, you got to kind of go through some of that stuff and change it out and get it back the way it's supposed to be. But pretty neat, I guess you could say, but hard to believe that it's a low mile 93 Cobra. God, I wish I knew the miles. I want to say it's something like 7,000, somewhere around there. It was low. It was really low on when this thing went to a race car. But let me get up in here and see if the hood pop. Well, I don't think the engine's too exciting. Oh, maybe I should just lift. I've been working out and guess I can't figure out how to lift the hood up. But because of the American Iron spec, I think he had to run a carburetor, still a 302, or 302 cubic inch. You can see all the dedicated, you know, lines and things and what's been stripped on the car. You know, no AC, no heat, you know, still had power steering, all that cool stuff. All this tape here that, you know, kind of redirects, you know, airflow where it needs to go, eliminates negative air pressure, you know, that causes lift. You know, you don't want that when you're racing. And then if you look here on this this driver headlight, you can see some tech, I guess, cards or certifications, but this is 2010. So time of this video, you know, 13 some odd years ago, this car was on track, you know, making some passes somewhere. True Teal 93 Cobra in race car form. That's gonna hurt some of y'all's feelings, but hey, oh well. Okay, moving on. 83 GT's next. I don't know what was going on in whoever's head when they decided that this elaborate boss theme was appropriate, but that's that's kind of what we got. And kind of continuing with the theme here of naming the cars, Baby Blue Boss is kind of what this one got dubbed. But 83 GT, the car has good bones. It really does. Some of the moldings, typical Fox body stuff, you know, people just run a gosh darn deck screw in there to hold the molding on. Some of that goofy stuff, but at its core, you know, it's a really good car. And it just, like many others here, needs to be fixed. And that kind of goes back to, you know, the first part of the video of me saying that, you know, some of these are some rough old birds, and this is one of them. But we've done a few things to this car. Y'all probably seen it on video. You know, we did the 130 amp alternator conversion on it. The car will run and drive. You know, you put a battery in it and, you know, it'll go down the road. It's not 100% roadworthy, but, you know, if you wanted to trot it around the parking lot or, you know, go up the road to maybe eat a quick bite of food or something like that, it'll get you there. But in the way it is right now, not very reliable. So like many others, definitely on the list to get fixed. It's the interior, black interior. It looks blue probably to you on camera, but that's just because of the fade over all the years. It's got the rear window louvers. You know, that was kind of period correct back in the day. TRX wheels, those are the original wheels that I know of to the car. That was the correct wheel that would have came on this car from the factory. That was a metric wheel, 390 millimeters, which equates to what, 15.39 inches, give or take, something like that. And those tires became obsolete, became very expensive. So what we did, we made the 16-inch version of this TRX wheel, which you'll see here momentarily as we progress through the cars on our 79 pace car. So 83 Baby Blue Boss GT. How about that for a trim level, huh? Alrighty, the 95 GT. This is Opal Frost in color, and by default, that's what we named it, Opal Frost. Pretty much stock 95 GT. This one kind of came up for sale, shoot, back in 2017 maybe? I don't know. There's so many cars, so many dates, but got a good deal on it. You know, guy just needed it gone, It was a running driving car. It's always been a running driving car. It's got an AOD in it, or AODE, I guess. So that kind of takes a little bit of the fun out of it, but who knows? Maybe one day we'll get a wild hair and put like a T5 or TKX or something in it, but it's a good running driving car. We've done a few things to it on video and off video out there in the shop area. You know, new AC, new alternator, all that good stuff. Cowl panel. We have not dynoed this car, I don't think. So come on, Landon, what are you doing? Do your job, dyno this thing. And then the interior, we won't get too far into this. It is all black interior, all stock except for that SVE FR500 steering wheel in black with the red sightline. And it's got an aftermarket radio in it. And then the wheels, those are the bronze SVE Series 2. This car's had a few different wheels on it. This is what we've landed on for the longest time. But call me crazy, but I think what would look good on this thing would be probably the 98 Cobra wheel. I don't know. Sometimes when you get silver on silver, it can start clashing, but that bronze Series 2 does look pretty good on this car. Got the Cobra style headlights in it. And by Cobra style, I mean the ultra clears. The GT still had the fluted headlight. So, but good example. Really, really good, clean example of a, 94, 95 GT. Okay, so stepping over here, y'all probably already grinning ear to ear. This is a real 2000 Cobra R. I know you're gonna ask me, or you're gonna ask me, I know you're probably gonna wanna know the number. I can't remember the number. I said it in another video of when we did the video for the front splitter support brace. So we'll link that one below. I'll link all those videos below. But I think it's somewhere like car 50. It's between car 1 and car 100. I can assure you that. We've had this one since Scott Springer's had this one. I say we, just by default. He's had this since 2019, I think. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. You can kind of classify it as a barn find because there was dust, dirt all over this car. Whenever we repaired the driver's window, because on these new edge, or these 94 to 04 cars, the way Ford did the window brackets, some of them will come undone and that'll cause the window to either, tilt up or tilt back on whichever bracket had come loose. So we put our window support braces in it, which is a great fix, by the way. If you don't know what those are, you should check those out if you have a 94 to 04 car. And then whenever we got into the car, there's like dirt daubers nests and stuff in the door. So I guess you could definitely kind of classify it as a barn find, but the guy that had the car, he drove it. It's got, we'll look at the miles here real quick, but he had a radio put in it, so it had speakers and stuff like that. And then, oh goodness gracious, watch out, that splitter will get you. At a point in time in the car's life, it actually was pushing a little bit of compression through the cooling system. So Springer had to go in and, completely tear this thing down to put head gaskets in it. I think he had to send the cylinder heads off to the machine shop. So you talk about having to do a job like that on such a rare car, 1 of 300. That's kind of nerve-wracking. But he got it all back together, and he's tracked it several times at Circuit of the Americas and I believe Motorsport Ranch Crescent. But this is a driver car. This has been a 2000 Cobra R that has been driven. I mean, you see the blisters, you see the sun fade, you see the marks. This is not one of those ones that you find on the auction sites, that's bringing all the money because it's still got the window sticker in it. This thing has been driven and been used in the intended purpose of what John Coletti and the SV team designed it for. Kind of going back to, some of the stuff like Tony's car and whatnot, cars that, kind of just sit there and look pretty and get driven occasionally. This one's kind of one of those that had the opposite life to an extent. It was driven. Let me get the miles here. I think it's 31,000. Let's see how close I am. Smells like a 2000 Cobra R. We got another 2000 Cobra R as well, and it's weird how the cars smell the same. Dang it, the battery's dead. I guess the tender wasn't tendering, but it's over 30,000 miles. So, still the stock exhaust, factory wheels, factory interior. I mean, people didn't do a whole lot to these cars. I mean, what did you need to do to them? And it was already a factory race car. Had the IRS, the independent rear suspension, the M2300X brakes, which we discussed earlier on the keeping comp car. It had the 11.65 rear rotor, 355 gear, T56 transmission. The Recaro seats, had the fuel cell in it, which this car does not have the fuel cell in it anymore, just because they're just too expensive to maintain. If you still want to get out there and enjoy the car, you don't want to hassle it, or you don't want to have to hassle with all that. But other than that, 1 to 300, 2000 Cobra R. Let's go this way. We gotta see what's next in line. Watch that splitter, it'll get you. Okay, this is a 2001 Cobra convertible, but no, I'm kidding. This was one of these cars that was for sale. It was a roller. It needed kind of a new lease on life. And at the time that we got this car, we needed something for some research and development on a Coyote swap. And that's exactly what you see here under the hood. It's still a 4-valve technically. It's just no longer a 4.6. That is a Gen 1 truck engine, or no, excuse me. That is a Gen 2 truck engine, Ford Racing control pack, exhaust, catback. We have not dynoed this car. We need to dyno it. It's gonna be tough because the control pack is a Ford Racing control pack or Ford Performance control pack. It's got a 6R80 in it because we just needed, I know. We just needed the 6R80 to kind of do some research and development. So that's what ended up in the car. And with the control pack, you can't necessarily let it hold a gear. So, you know, if we would have went like the manual control pack route and then maybe used like the quick shift 6 controller like we did in the Godzilla car, Green Goblin, you know, we can actually go into dyno mode in that controller and actually tell it, you know, hey man, I need you in 4th gear, you know, give me close to 1-to-1 so I can dyno the thing. But we still may mess around with it and dyno the car, but it's got an 0304 front bumper on it. So no, it doesn't have the right bumper, doesn't have the amber tail lights. So really the only thing 01 Cobra is the hood, the badges, some of the interior, and that's it. But we had to do interior in it. It actually turned out really good. It's still not 100% complete. You know, we got some wires still hanging out, but like I said, some progress is good progress. And with all the cars here that we have around the shop, you know, we're always tinkering with something, and sometimes the stuff gets put on the back burner. But man, with these new seats, it smells like the boot store. So if y'all know what the boot store smells like, that's exactly what the interior of this car smells like. But it smells fresh, it smells clean. And then Cameron, he kind of spruced up the interior, cleaned it up, painted some things. And then Scott Hubbard, he was the one that did all the swap for the Coyote. So pretty cool car. Okay, so continuing on, this is Brandon's car. Brandon's an employee of LMR. He's been with us quite a while. This is his first Fox body. We're actually currently kind of fixing it up for him. Y'all be on the lookout for that video whenever it comes out. But yeah, he got this from a local junkyard here in Waco, Texas. And he's actually friends with the guy that owns the junkyard. And he had this car come through. Of course, it's a 4-cylinder car, but for the sake of Fox body Mustang, the 4-cylinder cars are usually the survivors to an extent, because either A, nobody did anything with them and just drove them, but the ones that have been kind of abused, you know, they were V8 swapped and, you know, maybe turned it into a drag car or something like that. But kind of what we're doing for Brandon, you know, we're just kind of, oh!
It's a meow meow.
There's the cat. There's the cat. It's a black cat. Oh my goodness, he was in the battery tray. So what do we name him? I don't know, do we name him Coupe? Because we're looking at a Coupe. I don't know, that's dumb. But well, there you go, we found the cat. We found the gosh darn cat. Dude, he was leaving some pretty big poops for his size. Well, cool, we found the cat. Awesome, but we've cleaned Brandon's car up some. There's still some work to do. We're gonna respray his moldings, put some headlights in it for him, some tail lights. We've got the interior blown apart right now. Kind of the way we positioned this car was, I hate the word budget-minded because that's still so subjective, but we went into this with the goal of just doing as much sweat equity as possible. Not really spending a whole bunch of money, and when we had to spend money, spend the money on where it counts. Obviously headlights, it's got a busted tail light. It needs shocks and struts, but for the most part, Brandon really didn't want to spend just a whole heck of a lot of money. He just wanted to, A, get the car because it was a Fox body, it was a coupe, and then B, it was his first one. And then he just wanted the experience of a Fox body Mustang. So that's exactly why I bought it, and that's what we're gonna help him with. You know, like respray his lower windshield moldings, the windshield moldings themselves, you know, cowl vent grill, wiper arms, and even for the sake of us, you know, yeah, we could go get this stuff at cost, but we know you guys can't. So that's why we're gonna try to refurbish a lot of this with some SEM our sim trim black paint and some stuff like that. But interior sharp. Like I said, it's blown apart right now. Hopefully that cat hadn't been in here. It looks like he has, bless his heart. But we got to fix a few things. Like we can let the door, we can, you know, probably, no, that's just absolutely blown apart. Matte pockets and things, you know, we'll probably tie up for now. Brandon can address that at a later date. Automatic car, 4-cylinder, 124,000. We've driven it around the parking lot, but I don't know if the odometer works. I think it does. But I'm excited for Brandon. I'm happy for him. Can't wait to get the car all finished up for him so he can go and drive it. Moving on here, this is two-tone. Again, another obvious name here. This is a 1990 GT, and this car has been around since about 2017, give or take. We've done a lot of stuff to this car. I would say this is probably a 5.0 Resto poster child to an extent. There's still a lot of parts that we could address, you know, that are 5.0 Resto branded in the terms of restoration, but it's got our 5.0 Resto turbine wheels on it, 15x7 all the way around. We did have the 15x9 on the rear, but this kind of being a driver car, and the 15x9 had a drag radial on it, we thought it was better suited just to go ahead and run a square set of 15x7 turbines. And call me crazy, I don't care what you say, it's a love-hate relationship, but the car looks pretty cool, I would say. What's old is new again, and that's kind of the case that we got going on here with the turbine wheels, the two-tone paint, which by the way, that's not the correct sheen for the two-tone. That's supposed to be more of a matte satinish finish, which we do have the paint available for the lower section of the two-tone GTs. And we need to do that video. We need to show how good that stuff is and talk about the process of doing that. But this is another car that I've got a lot of time in. I've resprayed the door frames. We got our run channel trims, roof rail moldings, outer door belt weather strips. I resprayed the mirrors. And check this out. These are the SVE Low Pro door handles. Another part that's you either like it or you don't, but me personally, I think to the right car, they look great. And you can say that with a lot of parts, but these we painted trim black, so it matched the rest of the trim on the car. But check this out. Look how quick this ratio is. Oh, that's sweet, man. That's one of those things where I can explain it the best I can on video, but I'm telling you, you just gotta feel this thing in person. Of how quick that ratio is, what makes the door open quicker versus, you know, on the old school Fox body factory handle, you know, it feels like you just got to roll this gosh darn thing over the roof of the car. So I'm gonna do it one more time, just because I can. Oh, that's sweet. For the most part, factory upholstery. You can see the small tear here. Factory carpet. A bunch of factory pieces still. This car has worn well, I would say. It's factory black interior, which I like. This was the car that we used for our 5.0 Resto top panel when it debuted back in 2018. Yeah, back in 2018, this was the car that we used, which crazy enough, when I was just doing all this, I'm kind of an Eagles fan, the band, and there was the long run cassette was in here, so I thought that was kind of neat. I kind of jammed out to the long run cassette while I did the top panel. But this has our 5.0 Resto steering wheel, SVE 5.0 Resto. One of the two. Always tough to keep up with the brands, but it's got the micro suede at the top and bottom, and then we had the red sight line here in the center. New dash pad, new AC vent registers. I believe we switched out the instrument clusters around. I can't remember. We stripped the tent. Sometimes glass house is the way to go, depending on the car, but I can tell you on these older cars that, you know, have a stock looking appearance, glass house is the way to go. We'll take a look at the engine bay too real quick. It's mostly stock. You know, this car isn't crazy. I think it's got 373 rear gears. So it's fun, you know, with the T5 transmission. And then I think, oh yeah, sweet, look at that. 130 amp alternator, just the good, you know, kind of fix me up, enthusiast-minded mods is what I call them. We have caster camber plates on it because the car's lowered with SVU springs. But this is our factory airbox and our factory inlet tube that's on this car. Looks like we've replaced the tensioner at one point, all that good stuff. Still has a clutch fan on it, obviously. But there you go, old two-tone. Okay, look at this old thing. This is a 1983 GL. Yep, GL. This is a good one. So the nickname for this car is Turkey Turd. let me explain. Obviously the tan paint job, and then it has a brown gut. So when Scott bought this car, that's kind of just what rolled off his tongue at that point, was turkey turd. So now the car belongs to Mike Lindley. He's an employee of LMR. He's our distribution manager. Mike's been with the company a very long time. I think he's at 20 years, or getting close to 20 years, or he has surpassed 20 years. And he's kind of one of the old running buddies back in the day of, you know, kind of some of our tenured guys that work here. And then Mike's always had good taste in cars. Kind of his plans for this is he wants to do a period correct V8 swap. Keep it carbureted, dual snorkel intake. I think he's gonna upgrade the brakes just because why not? You know, the Fox body brakes, you know, in stock form are already kind of, you know, sketchy. I'm excited to see this car. I'm really enjoying, you know, seeing it transpire and him work on it. But this is a, oh, golly, what were these? 3.3 liter V6s? Yeah, 3.3 liter V6s, I think. Does not run, has not run in a long time. They've tried to get it running. No, 3.8, it's a 3.8 V6, not a 3.3. 3.8 V6. In the condition that it's in, you know, to Mike and where his vision and where his head's at, he thinks the V8 would be a suitable replacement for this. And I agree with him because he's gonna chase a very clean swap. He's gonna do it, you know, the way Ford would have done it in 1983. There's turkey turd, everybody, but we'll take you in here to the interior real quick. Check out those sweet wheels. Yeah. That's where it's at right there. No, there's that brown gut. Mike has put carpet in it. The other carpet was just way too far gone, but surprisingly enough, the rest of the car has held well. You know, he's got to put a dash pad in it and a few other odds and ends, interior related, but the car's solid. It's been repainted, but whoever did it, you know, it's held up well. Turkey turd. We're silly. Okay, well that's that row. We'll jump back here in just a moment, probably when we come back from lunch, and we'll talk about that back row. All right, everybody, we're back from lunch. We're gonna pick up with the cars that were up on top of the lift here on the back wall. This is the 79 pace car. This one's been around the collection for a number of years. And as far as a date, I don't even know how far back it goes, but it definitely goes far enough back before my time here at LMR. And I'm going on 11 years coming up here in April. This is a Canadian export car. I don't think this car had AC. I don't think it had air conditioning, but I could be lying out of my teeth. But this is a very, very good example of a 1979 pace car. I think they built like 10,400 and something of these cars. Between 10,000 and between 11,000 for sure. They all look the same, you know, the kind of the pewter silver paint with the black trim, TRX wheels, which like I mentioned earlier on that 83 GT, this is the 5.0 Resto version. This is the 16-inch TRX wheel, and this has been real popular for us just because folks that want the correct wheel and that can easily find a tire, this is the wheel that they go with. Because, you know, a tire for a 16-inch wheel is a lot easier to find than the non-existent thing, or the non-existent tire on that 390 millimeter factory TRX wheel. But let me pop the hood on this. But the pace cars were neat. They had their own unique air dam, which was repurposed on the 82 GTs. I always liked this front end of this car. But yeah, no AC. And then I think the engine has been changed out at some point in the car's life. I don't think this is the original engine, but this is another one we need to dyno. We've never dynoed it. It's never really, I've seen this car run like twice in almost 11 years of working here for LMR. It's gone down the road, which is just one of those things. We need to get it out and drive it more. But the early Fox bodies were cool. You know, it was neat to see all the changes that they did between, you know, 79 to, you know, almost 82, then 83, 84, 85, 86, and then of course the Aero nose cars, 87 to 93. But the early cars, they had some unique characteristics to them, like the brake lines ran through the body of the car, just some oddball stuff like that. So jumping over here, this is the 1986 jalapeno or jalapena, whatever you want to call it, tomato, red SVO. Some years ago, we didn't do it. But the car did have a mild restoration done to it. It's a good example of a 1986 SVO. This was the last year for the SVOs. Of course, they did 84, 85, 85 and a half, and 86. 85 and a half is when they got the flush headlight, 84, and then 85 model SVOs. They had the recessed bucketed headlights. This was a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Special vehicle operations is what it stood for. Kind of a select team of Ford engineers that built this car. And then this was kind of around the time of where 4-cylinders were kind of starting to get more popular. And of course, you know, obviously forced induction helped it from a performance standpoint. And these tuned up and running well. I mean, they'd hang with a, you know, they'd hang with a 5-liter Mustang of that era. But it's still a 4-cylinder, you know, and you like what you like. Overall, the car's neat, you know, 5-lug wheels, 4-wheel disc brakes, which was the only Fox body to have that, other than the 93 Cobra R and 93 Cobra. So kind of some cool stuff going on here. Had a T5 transmission, I think world class T5 transmission. That was a Hurst shifter, the sports seats. I've always liked these interiors. I like the gray. The gray complemented the cars well and really just tied it all together. And then out back here, they called this kind of the bi-wing from an aerodynamic standpoint. You know, you kind of had your upper wing here, and then you had, you know, obviously the traditional wing that was mounted to the hatch. There was some like comp prep cars. They're rare, super rare. I don't think they had, they didn't have AC for sure. And I don't think they had the bi-wing. Could be wrong on that. We'd have to go back and watch our what is an SVO video to fact check that. But these were neat cars for sure. All right, so we got the White Snake. This is a 79 Cobra. Kind of going with our theme here of naming the cars. White car, Cobra, White Snake. How about that? And I opened the door because I want to look at the door tag. When we first got this car, we were kind of just glancing it over, and I think we noticed the door tag, and it was like a early, December of 1978. So early, very early Fox body Mustang. But this car here, it's missing the door molding, but it had the lime green accents here in the body moldings, and then up top, you can see you got Cobra across the windshield, but there was there's supposed to be like a lime green and kind of black snake that's supposed to be positioned here on the hood. Obviously that's long gone, but one of these days, you know, like several of the other cars I've talked about here in the video, you know, we'd like to see this one come back to life. We found this car local, one of those random, you know, you're driving down the street, you know, window farming, and kind of do one of those double take numbers, and this was stuffed off in the back of somebody's lot. I went up to him and said it hadn't run in years and all that jazz, and we threw a price out there and we brought it home. But the Cobras had like Ghia style interior, kind of had some unique door panels versus the other Mustangs. Oh wow, look at this. That's sweet. Goddamn 8-track. Billy Joel. Only the good die young. What else we got here? Oh no freaking way. Is this the Doobie Brothers? Listen to the music. I think that's the Doobie Brothers, isn't it? Yeah, the Doobie Brothers. Ha! Long before my time. That's a gosh darn artifact now. The early cars are cool, man. They really are. The Cobras also were kind of like the pace cars. They had the black keyed moldings around here, the quarter windows, your window trims, the lower section of the car. And then we were playing around one day in the shop. We put the SVO mesh wheels on it. The car had the TRX wheel on it as well. And we were like, shoot, put the mesh wheel on it. It's riding high, you know, it's got the stock spring in it instead of lowering springs, and you clean the car up, you know, put the moldings back on it. I'd almost prefer it patina, you know, to each their own. Old school Fox body Mustang. Alrighty, up next, Ice Baby, I reckon. This is a 1987 convertible GT. We got this local as well. Kind of one of those purchases of where you know somebody that knows somebody type of deal. This is a low mile car, 87,000 miles. I think we dynoed it, we did. AOD made some decent power, we were surprised. 78,000 miles. No, that hasn't rolled over. You can tell by the dash, you can tell by the armrest pad, you can tell by the wear on the seat. This car does need a little bit of cleanup. You know, the seats are dirty, but for the most part, you know, the top's good, the interior's solid. I mean, that steering wheel is still in really, really good condition. That's a kind of another telltale sign on whether or not, you know, a car's had some miles. Yes, granted, the steering wheel could have been switched out, but trust us, this one hasn't been switched out. Red interior, white seats, kind of some two-tone action going on. This car here, when we bought it, it had a pretty rough set of turbine wheels, and around that time frame was when we were about to release the 5.0 Resto turbine. Seeing the transition, the side-by-side of kind of the old crusty turbine and then the 5.0 Resto turbine, this really helped the car. It just needs a light paint correction. You know, there's some water staining and stuff from maybe somebody trying to clean the top with some, you know, like a alkaline or something like that base cleaner, and you can kind of see where it streaked the paint. But you spend a weekend on this thing and this thing would look sharp. We'll go open the hood just so we can get a look. A little crusty in some areas, but you know, nothing like some black E-coat can't fix on certain spots. So what's next? Looks like this is a wannabe Cobra. This is a 2000 black GT. This is actually my wife's car. I'm fortunate enough to be able to keep it up here. You know, if we need to reference something off of a 2000 model Mustang. She bought the car with the Cobra front bumper and hood on it. Me personally, I'd switch the stuff out, but hey, not my car technically. But I think she bought this in like 2011. She went through a couple Mustangs, and then she's always wanted a new edge car. Didn't really care about the color, but this is kind of the one she landed on back in the day. And I think it had about 80-something thousand miles when she bought it, and it's got about 187,000 on it now. Still the stock engine. You know, the hood, it needs some loving, but you know, I, for the most part, try to keep the engine bay somewhat tidy. You know, not bad considering the miles. You know, I try to keep it clean when it was being used as a daily driver. But these cars are fun. You know, I've always loved the new edge cars. It's kind of from a growing up standpoint. That's kind of the cars I kind of remember the most. Growing up, you know, through high school and stuff. Some friends having those cars in 2005, 2009 cars, stuff like that. But the car's, you know, pretty much stock. It's got a catback exhaust, it's lowered. To me, simplicity is key in a lot of things. Don't get me wrong. I do like, you know, the cars that do have a lot of modifications. I think it's almost like a, what are you feeling at that moment type of thing. And this is one of those where I just need to talk her into getting the GT bumper back on it with the GT hood and a Mach 1 chin spoiler. It's hard to beat, hard to beat. Right here, this is a 1986 Mercury Capri. This also at one point in the car's life belonged to Ted Vaughn. He's the guy that owns the 1985 ASC McLaren that Shannon fixed for him, resto modded, restored, whatever you want to call it. And he drove this for a while. It's an AOD car. Like many others, definitely needs some work. It's a T-top car. I've put weather strip on it for a how-to video, but I'll be the first to tell you with T-top cars, good luck not getting in the leak. So if you're watching this and you own a T-top car, you probably know where I'm coming from. You really got to work hard, you know, on these things, not to get in the leak, but with a little bit of trial and error and, you know, some sweat equity, you can get these cars, you know, somewhat tight to where they don't leak. But what made the Capris cool was the flared fenders. You know, you see here, you kind of got the kick out on the fender. You know, the Mustangs didn't have that. And then back here on the rear quarter on the haunch, you know, you kind of got the same kick out. What's not correct on the car would be the hatch. This is off of a Mustang. The Capris had a bubble hatch, kind of what helped make them unique, you know, other than some of the other Capri specifics, but had Capri specific tail lights. Still use the 10-hole, or what a lot of folks know it as the phone dial wheel. They didn't use the Ford center caps. They used like the Cougar head for these wheels. Interior is crying for some help. We'll get to it. But kind of where we saw this car was like go through the interior really well. Make the interior a really nice place to be. Come back and almost leave the exterior patina. Get it back to like, you know, the correct color trim and stuff like that. Get the bubble hatch back on it. but we almost like the patina aspect on the outside. And then we even had a wild hair of maybe doing like a motorsport or motorcraft livery on no, it was motorsport. I forget how many of those cars they made, but had like a graphics package. They looked pretty neat. They really did. And we kind of had that idea for this car, but like some of the others we've talked about in this video, we'll get to it eventually. So jumping over here, kind of another rough old bird, 1986 GT, another one of those field finds, I guess you could say, around here in Texas. One of the guys was just rolling down the road and then did one of those, you know, neck turns, a little bit of window farming, and there you go. Here's a 1986 GT. So called the number, rang the doorbell, whatever we did, and here it sits. So we're kind of glad we had this car, or kind of glad we got this car. We didn't really have an 86 GT in the arsenal. We had a very clean 85 GT, which we'll get to that car here momentarily. But 85, 86 are just some of my favorite Fox bodies. I think just as a whole, the way they looked, just with the gray trim, the hood decals, the 10-hole wheels, man, they just look so good. They really do. And this car here, it doesn't run. It needs some work. I mean, look at this thing. It's dirty, it's crusty. You know, hood insulator's gone. There's probably some rust we're gonna have to address here and there, but it's all there per se. You know, we don't have to do a lot of chasing. You know, it's missing a molding or two, I think, or it may not. Yeah, it's missing a molding or two, which, hey, we sell Fox Body Mustang parts, so we know where to get that. But this here, I believe, is medium canyon red. Medium canyon red. There was also, of course, in that year, the jalapeno red, but this is the medium canyon red with the red interior. T5 car. Definitely another one we got to add to the list of to get it fixed. Got a lot of work to do, I think, if y'all hadn't picked up yet. So y'all are probably going to tell me in the comments, man, y'all get on it, get to work. We want to see some of this stuff come to fruition, and we do too. And we want to bring y'all along for the ride. So that's the back row here, the cars that were up on the lift. So we'll do some rearranging, and we'll get these cars here on the front, and then we'll hop around and check out the ones in the studio. All right, people, so continuing on, we're at the front here of the cars that were situated in the air. This one here, this is a 94 convertible GT. It belongs to one of the LMR employees, Adam Lopez. He's had the car a while. You know, he'll drive it on occasion. Like some of the other ones here, you know, needs a little bit of work. You know, if you wanted to, you know, chase, I'm not gonna say perfection, but, you know, kind of make it look like it wears a little bit better. But nonetheless, it's still a good driving car. He's got Cobra brakes on it. You know, he's got the cow hood, and then the interior, it's white seats. White console, I think it's black over white is what it is. Kind of like got that Oreo gut. Got the Celine SC style wheels on it. Venturing on down the row here, here's another one of Jared Farrell's cars. Y'all remember this one from the dyno if you follow the channel. This is a 1989 Florida Highway Patrol car, of course decommissioned. It still has the correct paint scheme for the Florida Highway Patrol cars of that era. Obviously no graphics or decal package. It still has a spotlight over there. You can see some of the holes and stuff in the interior panels of kind of where they had their equipment in the car. This little antenna is fake, by the way. Jared, I think, had this at the house, and he just stuck this on here just to give it the added effect, I guess you could say. I forget the modifications on this thing. Y'all have to look at the dyno, watch the dyno video to know all that. But SSP car, to the right people, you know, they're pretty popular. You know, a lot of folks put them back the way they were, try to track down all the period correct equipment and stuff like that. And then others, kind of like Jared, you know, he just drives it and enjoys it for what it is. And it's a 5-lug swap, and I believe the wheels that are on this thing, I think we touched base on it in the dyno video. Those are off of a Crown Vic. They kind of look pretty neat on this car. Pretty good looking engine bay here. These are the 5.0 Resto SSP style hoses. These have been a good addition to the line. No, they are not 100% factory correct. They are replicas. You know, they're designed to closely mimic the factory SSP hoses. They're a little glossier. The blue may be just a touch darker, I guess you could say. Not quite as pale as the original hoses, but it is a pretty good solution, really good solution for that matter, for folks like Jared, you know, who didn't have this particular hose on his car, and you know, now he does. So upon, you know, initial glance and initial look here in the engine bay, you know, it's got the right looking hoses on it. But this is a fun car, it really is. It gets down. Next up, all right, this one right here, man. Where do I even start? I got a lot of time in this one as well. I'd say I'd probably have as much time in this one almost as I do that 2015 triple yellow car. I did the Cobra 5-lug conversion on this car. How about that? Another day, another car, startup. You never know what you're gonna get. But anyways, did the Cobra 5-lug conversion on this car. This is the car we put the Vortech on, Mega Squirt, a lot of different stuff has been featured on this car. Contour fans, the list goes on. And kind of like me talking about two-tone, the 1990 GT being the you know, 5.0 Resto poster child, I guess you could kind of say this is the SVE poster child. This is more performance-minded stuff versus restoration type stuff. I mean, it has its fair share of restoration parts, don't get me wrong, but you can clearly see, you know, Vortech supercharger, all that fun stuff with this car versus the 1990 GT old two-tone. This also has the SVE fuel system on it. That's a really good kit. For the money, it's hard to, I'm not gonna say hard, but for the money, it's a bargain, because, you know, if you were to try to track down all the hose yourself, you have to assemble all the ends and fittings onto the hoses. The amount of time you would have trying to do all that would just be crazy. And the SVE fuel system, you know, all the lines have been predetermined. You know, they have the B nuts on them already, so you don't have to build or mess with any hoses. It's unbox it, kind of quantify your parts, know what you got, and then install it into the car. So this car needs a little bit of work. I think it's got like a squeaking pulley, messed up pulley. We need to kind of work on the idle a little bit. But, you know, kind of continuing the theme here of cars needing work, and some progress is good progress. That's kind of where we're at. But the interior, it's a nice place to be. This was how did this come about? Oh, it was like a theft recovery car or something, but it's relatively low miles, to my understanding. I think it's like barely 100,000. No, it's like 62,000. And this car here actually was the car we used to install the 5.0 Resto digital instrument cluster. I don't think this car has a battery in it. None of them really do. What's going on here? No, does not. That 5.0 Resto instrument cluster is money. I like that a lot. This interior is sharp, it really is. You know, a few stains on the carpets and things that you could work out. You know, fix the mat pockets, typical Fox body stuff. But this is a really fun car. And then we've rocked the SVE Series 3s for quite a while, because quite frankly, they just look so damn good on this car. One of my favorites in the fleet for sure. I think because I have so much time with it, and it's fun too with that I forget what rear tires on the back of it, but man, that Vortech, it squalls third gear in that thing. Fun car. Okay, oh wow, look at here. Another one of my favorites. This is the black 85 GT. Kind of like what I said earlier, 85, 86s were some of my favorite cars personally. Fox body Mustangs. And this car here, it looks so good. Black, no, the hood decal is not correct. The black cars didn't have a hood decal. They just had the silver GT. They're supposed to just have the silver GT right here. But 17-inch 10 holes from 5.0 Resto, and that absolutely made the car. Because the way it sits was kind of the way it has always sat. We did have to paint the car, kind of freshen up some of the interior, but the 17-inch 10 holes just completely gave this car a total transformation from what it looked like with the factory 15-inch 10 holes. And this has been a great seller for us. A lot of folks out there really dig the 17-inch 10 holes. Typical Fox body interior, you know, it's got its wear areas, but for the most part, it's pretty sound. I mean, could it be gone through? Sure, but this is a driver. You know, we can get in this car and take it down the road. This was the one we put the Holly carburetor on, and we did a dyno video on as well. Overall, solid car, and again, one of my favorites. I think I'd have to say though, I think a white 86 GT. I had 85 GT I like as well. White, I just like, white's cool, man. I mean, I like this black too. You know, when black's clean, it's hard to beat, but maintaining black is not fun. Trust me, my wife's 2000 GT. But there you go. Relatively stockish engine bay, you know, dual snorkels, all that fun stuff. Pretty good example of an 85 GT for sure. All right, let's see what's next. Oh man, if you are a tenured viewer of the LMR YouTube channel, y'all know this car. This is Project Blue Collar. This was the car that we painted B5 Chrysler Blue Metallic. We get that question a lot. Went through it, you know, did the TMI 0304 Cobra style seats, or 0304 Cobra style themed seats. Still a bucketed or sports seat for a box body. It does have the more aggressive bolsters and stuff. But this was a fun project. I remember this car because they were working on it whenever I got hired on back in 2013. And then I had just a small time with the car. But J-Mac, he was the one that did the majority of the work. We sold it. It circled around for a little bit between owners, and then it actually recently popped back up for sale not too long ago, and we just went ahead and bought it back. That way we could have it back in the arsenal. We got some plans for the car. I guess you could say that about all of them, but definitely one of those that's on the list sooner rather than later to get it back to fighting shape, because when it left our possession, it was still fuel injected. You know, EFI, which was correct, being an 88, and then somewhere down the road, somebody put a carburetor on it. So we'll have to go redo all that. But I think with our plans we have, you know, we'll easily fix that carburetor. And then touching base here, this has the low pro door handles on it as well that we painted to match the B5 blue. And if you notice here, look at these chips. I'm pointing this out because we're being fully transparent with you. If you don't clock these correctly, if you do not clock these handles correctly, this is what will happen. And this is what obviously has happened to ours, you know, during some of the research and development of these outer door handles. So if you're watching this, you're considering a set of these, or you have a set of these, you know, just make sure you get that adjustment just right so you don't crash it into your door area. We'll open the hood on this one. Nothing really too exciting. Oh yeah, we got this one dialed in. I mean, this one's all the way sweet. Check this out. Oh man, that is money. Where are you at? Oh, another thing we gotta fix. There you go. That old carburetor. Work in progress, folks. Work in progress. Moving on down the line. Fun car right here. We call this one Race Fox. And I think it fits that name well. It's kind of built for road racing. This was another car that was spec'd specifically for a class. Can't remember the class that it was. I don't really see any stickers because I think we've taken all that off. But this here is rocking a 331 engine, trick flow 11R heads, trick flow intake. Makes some decent power. You know, we dynoed it not too long ago, and it makes the power where we need it. You know, which is, you know, around the 4,000 RPM area, or 4,000 RPM range for road racing and stuff. But tri-bar wheels, Cobra brakes, roll cage, Recaro seats, like the 93 Teal Cobra we showed you. This car here also has the door frame cut out of it. It's got the extended roll cage, somewhat gutted interior. I mean, all that's left in there really is, I'll say somewhat, all the way gutted interior. The only thing in there is a dash. Driven this car at a handful of tracks, Hallett, Crescent. Haven't driven it at Cody yet. Wish I have, or wish I can. Driving one of these on Cody is kind of neat. You know, you think prestigious F1 level track, and you out there rowing the boat in the Fox body Mustang. It's kind of neat. I would pop the engine, or pop the hood. I would open the hood on this thing, but it's kind of a bear with the latches and things. 331, it gets down, sounds amazing as well. Alrighty, so nearing completion here on this particular row. This is a 2004 Azure Blue Mach 1 5-speed car. This one here belonged to a mutual friend of the company. He was selling it. We felt the need that we wanted a Mach 1 in the arsenal, so here we are. It's a higher mileage car, 135,000 give or take, but it's well kept. It's well kept. There's a few areas you can nitpick, but again, that's that way with any car. We have the SVE 17-inch 0304 Mach 1 style wheel. That really helped the car kind of give it a more aggressive look. Granted, it has an SVE brake caliper on it, but that was the 2-piston caliper with the 13-inch rotor. Up front, that was still factory on an 0304 Mach 1, just like a 9901 Cobra, 01 Bullet, and 0304 Cobra. And then, of course, it still has the factory brake in the rear, the 1165 rotor. But when we got it, it had an 0304 Cobra front bumper on it. Again, to each their own, but to us, it really didn't make sense. So we had a Ford original bumper painted back Azure blue and put the Mach 1 chin spoiler back on it. You know, just to tie the car together. And kind of going back to a talking point earlier of glass house and no tint, I'm telling y'all, if this car here did not have tint, it would further add aesthetics to the car and help the overall look. This is a perfect example of that theory. Glass house, man. You can't beat it. Interior, it's Mach 1 through and through. We did put front upholstery in it. The driver's seat was pretty beat up. And then of course, when you buy upholstery, you know, you have to buy the front. Or when you buy upholstery, you have to buy driver and passenger. So we went ahead and put both sides in it. Crazy enough, way back, I say way back, I guess it was way back in today's time, but like when I bought my Lightning, I was actually looking for an 0304 Mach 1. So one of these days I'll end up with one. Preferably, I don't know, I always wanted to chase a dark shadow gray DSG. But I guess here lately, I'm kind of taking a liking into the white Mach 1s because you really don't see too many of them. All right, last one on the list here. This belongs to an employee as well. This is Tyler DiAgostino's. It's a Procharged Gen 2 Coyote, 2015 magnetic gray. This has the whole kitchen sink thrown at it, I guess, in terms of modifications, but still a factory Gen 2 engine, Procharger. I can't remember what head unit. P1, maybe D1. Anyways, Procharged, all the supporting mods, fuel system, the whole 9 yards, T56 conversion, upgraded half shafts, Viking shocks. Don't know how fast the car has been. I don't think it's dipped into the 9s just yet, but unfortunately right now the car is down. It tore up a piston, tore up a cylinder wall, something like that. So Tyler's currently needing to fix it and get it back on the road, but roll cage, or I guess roll bar would be the technical term for that. It's pretty rowdy. It's got the race blow-off valve. So this thing, when it spools up, it starts talking to you. I think his hood's open, so we can go ahead and take a look at this Mama Jamma. Savini's cow hood. I kind of like them on this car, I kind of don't. Oh, yep, see, there you go. Under construction. Procharged D1 SC head unit. All right, well that'll close out this row. We'll get these situated and we don't lack too much. I think I counted 30, 37, 38, something like that. So a lot of cars to talk about. So we'll keep on keeping on, y'all. Got a few stops to make, the studio and then Hubbard's area. And then we'll close her on out. All right, folks, so we actually had a few cars over here in the shop area. This is one of our more recent builds, so y'all probably know this one. This is the Godzilla swap car. This is the 92 Calypso LX hatch that we paid $300 for. It was basically a roller with nothing in it. I think a 7.5-inch rear end and a K-member, and that was it. So it kind of hung around a while. We used it for research and development, and then when the Godzilla engine came out, we bought one of those, and it kind of sat around the shop for a little while, and they were like, what the heck, we should put this thing into something. well, here you go. This is exactly what we put it into. And early on, you know, we kind of had the idea of let's just put an engine in the car and that's it. Well, we know we should have known ourselves better by now. We ended up putting a full interior in the car, Maximum Motorsport row bar. It's a real nice place to be. Corbeau seats, bunch of 5.0 resto parts in here. Everything was sprayed with the LMR paint system. And then the instrument cluster that we're running in this thing is the Autometer Envision digital cluster. The digital stuff is definitely popular right now. I feel like it's only going to get even more popular as people refine it and you know, figure out different ways to do it. But definitely a cool place to be. We've taken it to the track. The best time it's been, we've only taken it that one time, was 11:17. Can't remember the trap speed. Can't remember the 60 foot. But I want to say it was like 100, maybe 18 mile an hour, 120 mile an hour. It sounds about right for an 11:17 trap. And then I think it was like a 181 or something, 179 60 foot. So still some room for improvement with the car for sure. I mean, that big old heavy engine, you know, when it would take off, you know, you could kind of just see it. It almost just like it moved forward. You know, you didn't get really some weight transfer to the back. So, you know, once we kind of dial that stuff in, and I'm sure the car will definitely run 10s, but we'll open the hood. Take a look at it. Scott Hubbard was the one that pretty much built this entire car. Did a really good job since there really wasn't a lot of information out there. It was kind of just put stuff in places and make it work, make it fit. So ended up with AC on the car. We do live in Texas, so we like our AC. The only, I guess, creature comforts it doesn't have would be power steering and power brakes. The way you see it here, it has a stock truck intake. It's still a stock sealed engine. You know, we haven't changed out the camshaft or nothing like that. A little 3D printed adapter here into a kind of a cold air kit or air box situation setup. SVE fuel system, Team Z K member, Team Z control arm, strange front struts, strange rear struts, 331 rear gear, because originally we were going to put nitrous on the car. So that's why we went with the lower gear. And who knows, you know, we may end up putting this thing on the jug. So wheels, that's the SVE Classic Drag. That's been a staple for us for a long time. Wheelwood front drag brakes. And then out back, we just left the rear disc conversion because this was the car we used to research and develop our most recent iteration of the 4-lug rear disc conversion. And the only thing we did was just switch out the axles for 5-lug axles. But Green Goblin is what we call this one. Definitely a fun car. It's got all the torque, man. All the torque. I think 400, it's in the dyno video, 480 pound-feet of torque. It gets down. All right, so moving on here. This is the latest addition to the stable. This is the 2024 Mustang in Atlas Blue. Man, it's either you like the car or you don't. I guess you could say that with anything, but it seems like there's a lot of hate with this car. And I get it, you know, we all have our own personal opinions and personal objectives and, you know, the whole 9 yards. But quite frankly, the way I see it is, you know, at least Ford is still putting a V8, you know, in a pony car. All the others have kind of just, you know, threw in the towel and said the heck with it. You know, we're done. You know, regardless of, you know, kind of the styling of how it may look like a certain car or whatever. And I'm sure Ford probably integrated some of that into this car to attract another buyer. I mean, they're in the business to sell cars, and you know, hopefully they sell a bunch of them, and you know, we can continue having a Mustang, because like anything, I think this car is only going to become more refined as it goes on. But the interior, this is probably single-handedly, to most people, I feel that may be the key selling point, you know, for a first-time maybe pony or sports car buyer. They may have had a Mustang years ago. They go to the dealership, they get to take a look at one, they see all the fancy instrument cluster and infotainment center, all that cool stuff. And it really is neat. A lot of people say, oh, it's like 2 iPads stuck up there. Oh, well, whatever. I think it's pretty neat. It's cool to see it. The flat bottom wheel, you know, kind of the thumb grips here. It's, you know, there's a lot of S550 in it. I mean, I don't think it's an S650 personally. You know, I think it's more of like an S550.2, but you know, Ford's called it an S650, so this is what we got. Here, we'll key on, kind of open up this instrument cluster a little bit. And y'all have seen this, you know, in our videos, but figured we'd show you again while we're here. Good feeling materials, I think, personally. You know, kind of scratchy too in some regards, but you know, the door panel material's nice, the seats are nice. And kind of the way I worded it, like my initial impressions when we were up there in Ohio and we bought this car, you know, it just felt roomier. You know, it's just weird kind of how I perceived that, but it just felt like there was more room in the car. So we'll open up the hood, check out the little dual intake thingy. Still no tuning as of yet at the time of this video. People are developing supercharger kits, developing turbo kits. It's just kind of how the dominoes fall when the new car comes out. But check that out. The first Mustang, other than the 2020 to 2023 GT500s, or 20 to 2022 GT500s, that has factory lift supports. But there's the little dual intake stuff, Generation 4 Coyote. And I bet you when tuning becomes available, these cars are going to perform quite well. They weigh about the same, give or take, depending on the package level. I would say the S650 does weigh a little bit more than the outgoing S550 and Gen 3 Coyote. So Atlas Blue looks really good, especially in the sunlight. Got a lot of metallic in it. So 2024 Mustang, it's rocking the SVO R357 wheels, and then it has a set of Ford Performance lowering springs, SVE Resonator Elite, and then the factory muffler there with the active valve exhaust. That's the cars in the shop, so let's head in the studio and we'll check those out. All right, so here we are. This is premier storage right here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying that because my truck's in here. But we'll start over here on the far wall. Here's the other 2000 Cobra R that I was mentioning. So we have, I guess, 2 of the 300 that were ever made, and I don't even know if the full 300 still exists. You know, there's always that one car that may have been wrecked or something like that. But Shannon's had that car for quite a while. It's been in the fleet for several years. I believe he bought it up in Missouri and drove it all the way back. And funny story with that one, I think he was coming through Oklahoma, and there was a pretty brutal snowstorm, and there was just snow. I mean, this thing acted like a dang snowplow, man. Just compacted right here on the front area of the car. But this one here, 17,000 miles, 18,000 miles. And I know you're probably thinking, well, what number is it? I don't know. I'll put it down in the description in the video, or we'll pop it up on the screen for you. That way you know the numbers of these Cobra Rs. But Shannon's drove this. You know, we still drive it occasionally. I would say it's kind of been retired for the car that's sitting underneath it, the 350R. But the 2000 Cobra R up there, man, that's cool. That's very, it's kind of surreal, you know, because we come in the studio every day, and you know, a lot of people have never seen a Cobra R in their life, and here we are, we get to see one, you know, Monday through Friday. So we almost kind of take it for granted to an extent. But I remember the first time I got to move that car around the parking lot, it was, you talk about grinning ear to ear like a Cheshire cat. That was definitely me, because the only time I could, you know, I guess, quote unquote, experience this car was, you know, through video games, through Forza and Gran Turismo and stuff like that. And kind of to just be able to sit in it, start it up, listen to that 5.44 valve V8 hum to you, you know, in your ears. It was a pretty cool feeling, and it still is. You know, even when I get to move the car around the shop, or around the parking lot, or you know, drive it up the road occasionally, you know, it definitely never gets old, and it's one of those that always puts a smile on your face. So underneath it, that's a 2016 GT350R. We've tracked this several times. Doesn't have a lot of miles on it. Has a lot of track miles on it, that's for sure. You can see kind of some of the number 8s there. That was the most recent number we chose for one of the more recent events that we did. Kind of looks neat on the car, and then kind of down the side here where the graphic kind of opens up there at the venting in the fender. But the hood's painted black, and then right here, this is just gloss black vinyl. We kind of carried that with the factory gloss black roof. Whenever these cars were coming out, it was the highest horsepower naturally aspirated engine that Ford had ever produced at the time. 526 horsepower, 468 pound-feet, I believe. And of course the 350Rs, they had the carbon fiber wheels. you know, big brakes, all that good stuff, specific chassis tuning, dampers and things like that for the car, specific to the car. You could option this without a radio and without AC. There's not very many of those cars around. This car does have AC, it does have an infotainment system, but all the 350Rs did have a rear seat delete, and they all had Recaros. And going kind of back to the engine, it was Ford's first take at a flat plane crank in a V8, codenamed Voodoo, 5.2 liter displacement, and there's nothing like the exhaust note of a flat plane crank engine, especially at 8,200 RPM, which is where this thing redlines, and it actually may be 8,250 RPM redline, but that's up there. I mean, that thing really starts to sing, and out of all the Mustangs, considering the factory exhaust, this one is probably by far my favorite, with a close second being probably a 2000 Cobra R, and then a probably a 2020 to 2022 Shelby GT500. Okay, so jumping over here, this is the 2001 Lightning, low mile truck with a Ford Racing 2.3 Whipple on it. This is kind of, I would say, not my dream truck, because you know I have a Lightning as well, but I would say the dream setup. I've always wanted a 2.3 Whipple. I actually still have my 2.3 Whipple. I just never put it on. Shame on me, right? But there's the polished 2.3 Whipple. We haven't dynoed this truck. It being a 4R100 and not being able to hold the one-to-one gear on the dyno, we never really get an accurate result, and we don't really have the capabilities to lock the converter or tell the transmission to hold, you know, a gear. But I would say that this truck would probably make somewhere around the, you know, 450 to 460 range horsepower, give or take, and then probably somewhere, you know, in the 515 to 525 pound-feet of torque, which, you know, back in the day, considering this was 2001, these trucks were running like, you know, low 12s, you know, high 11s, and in that time for a pickup truck, you know, you were scooting, you know, that was hauling the mail. Believe this is a 31,000 mile truck, 2001. So definitely one of those where we're glad we have it. Above it, that is a 2013 GT500 Trinity 5.8 liter engine. Those things made all the power, man. I mean, you could do a throttle body, a tune, and a pulley with a cold air kit, and those would make 700 plus horsepower. And at one point in time, that car did make 700 plus horsepower. Made 707, I believe. 707 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque. And those cars are sketchy. They really are. A lot of wheel hop. You definitely got to put like a rear lower control arm on it. And this car here, when it was, if you spec'd it with the correct rear gear, it would turn 200 plus mile an hour. And I think that's been the first Mustang, the only Mustang to turn 200 mile an hour. But the grabber blue with the black stripe looks really dang good. And the only option the car doesn't have is the glass roof. You see a lot of 13, 14 GT500s with the glass roof. I say a lot. You see a few 13, 14 GT500s with the glass roof, and as well as, you know, the other S197 Shelby models. But that car there has about 9,000 miles, 8,000 miles, right at 10 or less. That's for sure. Recaro seats, and I think as far as mods go, I think it's just the pulley in the tune now. No throttle body and no cold air kit. So it's kind of mild-mannered, I guess you could say, from what it used to be. Somewhere, I'd say probably 650-ish horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque. And then last but not least here, I guess the old saying, you save the best for last, right? No, I'm just kidding. That's too conceited. But this is my 2000 Lightning. I bought it when I was 19. I'm 32 currently at the time of this video, so I've had it a while. I've always wanted one of these things. I'll keep this short, keep it sweet. Kind of when I was around, I'd say 8 years old maybe. Local Ford dealership here to Waco, Texas, had a red 99 Lightning on the showroom, and I remember going one Saturday morning with my mom to get her oil changed. I remember just geeking over that truck, man. It's fuzzy in my head because, you know, I was 8 years old, but I remember laying my eyes on the thing, and just at that point, you know, you're like, oh, as a kid, oh, I want one of those, I want one of those. And I guess, you know, 19-year-old me was living 8-year-old me's dream. kind of weird to word it that way, but I guess it is what it is. And it's been a fun truck. I don't drive it as much as I should. I clean it more than I drive, but kind of going back to me talking about some of Tony's stuff of, I think you just appreciate having it. You know, you may be a little nervous, or, you know, it may stress you out to drive it because you don't know what could happen. And that's kind of the wrong way to think, really. I do need to drive it. I want to drive it more. And I'm hoping I can kind of push past some of my fear, I guess you could say, of wanting to go and drive it and enjoy it, because I did enjoy it, you know, when I first bought it, because I drive it quite often. It doesn't have a lot of miles on it. I bought it with 59,000, and I think it's got like 65,000 miles on it now, but full bolt-on truck, makes about 430 horsepower, give or take, 510 pound-feet of torque. Super fun, still has the Eaton blower on it. I'm currently redoing my electric fans, so you'll probably see some stuff out of place, like my fuse panel or my fuse box cover and stuff like that. But old school mods, man, you know, like the old Moto Blue tensioner setup, C&L elbow, you know, all that is just early 2000s, mid 2000s, you know, Forum Kool-Aid, I guess you could say. But 6 pound lower, makes about 6 pounds of boost. And then QA1 shock struts, still the factory 355 gear, and then still the factory 99 2000 wheels, factory manifolds, off-road mid-pipe, and then the Bassani catback, which that's such a good sounding exhaust on these trucks. I did the 01 to 04 front end, not conversion, but I have 2001, 2004 OEM headlights, corner lights, fog lights. I had a bumper repainted, Ford original bumper repainted silver, because my other one had like some rhino liner on it. Looked kind of neat, but I just outgrew it. And then this is the LMR upper grille, and then the LMR lower grille with the LMR paint. So if you have a Lightning, you're watching this video, and you need a grill, or you're considering a grill, or you need to replace your grill, whatever the situation you find yourself in, I'm telling you, those grills are freaking legit. So don't hesitate to buy one. And then the interior, we'll look at it. And it's kind of a mess right now too. I got an extension cord in there for my battery tender, and then I got a t-shirt, I got a towel down, and then a piece of paper. But stock interior for the most part. I mean, not too many people did anything in these trucks, with the exception of, you know, they'd add the flow-through console or center console out of like an Expedition. They'd cut down the seat, and quite frankly, that's almost the way Ford should have done this truck from the factory, but they didn't. All right, so that's my 2000 Lightning. Yeah, I probably rambled on a little bit longer than I should, but hey, you know, I've owned it for, God, how long have I owned this truck? 13 years. It's hard to believe. You know, I wish I would have been able to experience more vehicles. You know, a lot of people I know, you know, they buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, then get to experience a whole bunch of stuff. I have a hard time getting rid of things. You know, I think I take such good care of it. I get attached to it, and I feel like I want to keep it forever. So, but other than that, guys, that's our collection. I think I counted 37 videos. I think I counted 37 cars in total. Of course, that's not all LMR cars. That was, you know, a few employee cars as well, but it's quite the collection. You know, we have some nice ones and we have some rough ones, but I think what you can take away from this is the amount of rough ones that we do have, because those in their own light almost have as much value, depending on how you look at it. But hear me out, you know, almost have as much value as, you know, some of the nicer vehicles, because if it wasn't for the rough birds, you know, we wouldn't be able to make the parts we make and figure out solutions for all of you. So as always, hope y'all find value in what we do. Leading back to the first part of the video, y'all comment below. You know, if y'all want us to talk a little bit more about a vehicle that you saw here in the collection, drop us a comment, let us know. If you've got a story about a car that you've owned in the past, you know, dating back all the way, you know, to the 79 Fox body Mustang, put a comment down there, because at 32 years old, you know, I didn't get to experience the Fox body Mustang era, you know, like all of you, or most of you that are watching. You know, like I said earlier, kind of grew up with more of the new edge and the 2005 to 2009 cars. You're probably thinking too, man, you miss a lot of talking points on some of this stuff. Well, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm human. You're never going to be able to cross every T and dot every I. That's why we have all of you to put down in the comments, man, you did this, you forgot this. So let me know down below what y'all think. We're going to sign off for this video. Hope you all enjoyed the collection video as much as we enjoyed putting it all together for you. So Like I always say, if you find value in what we do, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and then, well, actually you gotta like the video, then turn on notifications. And then until we see you in the next one, for all things 79 to present Mustang and first and second gen Lightning and 92 to 96 Bronco, keep it right here at the Real Enthusiasts, LMR.com.